Hello and welcome to our second segment on WION World Order, which is on climate emergency and climate action plan. Well, we've been talking about climate change for over 2 decades seriously, but right from the Kyoto Protocol of the 1990s to the Paris Deal of 2015 to now in 2019 with the COP25 happening in Madrid as we speak. But are we any closer to finding a solution? Well, not quite. This week alone, the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has said that the point of no return is no longer beyond the horizon. So certainly, there's much to worry about. And our conversations need to continue about climate change. Well, with that, let's begin our second session. And let me introduce our panel this afternoon. We have with us Ambassador Daniel Chiburu from Argentina. Thanks very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. We also have Tahina Rasamolina, Charge d'Affaires for Madagascar with us. Thank you, ma'am. We have Nejmeddine Lakhal, Ambassador of Tunisia to India. And we have Sultan Rahim Zoda, Ambassador of Tajikistan to India. Thank you all very much for talking to us. Let me begin with you, Ambassador. I mean, we've been talking seriously, at least, for the last 3 decades about climate change. Are we any closer to finding a solution that is probably closer to happening or is acceptable to most parties, if not all?
Thank you. I think the word seriously, it's a little bit strong. I think if we were serious, we would have found a solution till now. I think as you just said, and then just as the Secretary General of the United Nations just recently said, we are at a turning point when it comes to global warming. So the situation is very delicate and very dangerous. And I think the evidence of the warming, the global warming, is overwhelming. So now we have the rate of heat is higher. We have less rainfall. We have floods. We have extreme weather all around the world. I think the situation is very delicate, and I think it's not, as you can see, this is one of the first implications of climate change, is my voice. So I think what we need now, we need a real political will. We have the money, I think, not all of us, and we have the technology, and what we need, it's a will that will change the thing for the next decade or century, because it's very, very serious situation.
So you certainly believe that this is a political decision on climate change, and the action has to obviously come from politicians around the world. Ambassador, you know, there's the whole issue about climate finance. Who pays for climate mitigation? The developing world versus the developed world question. What are your thoughts on that?
Basically, it's really one of the biggest issues, because without financing, without good investment in infrastructure, it's impossible to address the climate change issues. It's impossible, basically, to take the real adaptation measures and to make the economy and the communities resilient to the climate change impact. That's why, of course, the world community is doing a lot of things. You know, basically, this Green Climate Fund, the other funds had been created to address this challenge, but still, a lot of financial resources is needed in the future. I think the Paris Agreement required 100 billion USD, I think, annually, basically, to address the climate change impact. And in this case, we think that really financing is a big challenge also to address this issue. We hope much that the developed country will be able also to help the least developed countries and the developing countries to address, because really it's a big burden for the developing and least developed countries to address this challenge.
Sure. Ambassador, now yesterday there was a report by German Watch which said that the top 5 countries, of course there was India and Madagascar, who will be the most affected by climate change. There was Germany and Japan. So it's going to affect all countries, whether rich or poor. Countries like Madagascar, how do you think they're dealing with climate change?
Thank you. Yes, climate change affects all countries. This is an undeniable fact. For Madagascar, the situation is we are 4th on the list of the most affected countries when we talk about disasters related to climate change. Every year we are hit by cyclone. Starting from 1990 to 2013, we've been hit by 63 cyclones. It caused floods and then loss of crops and products, and so this is the reality. But on the other side, there is a demand for food, for better living conditions. So we have to make sure these two challenges go together. And we believe that these are not competing challenges. We can grow, find growth, while at the same time, respecting environment and protecting diversity.
Sure. Now, Ambassador, the question, of course, here being that the two largest polluters in the world, of course, China and the United States. We know the United States' position on the Paris deal. We know that if the second most polluter, United States is going to pull out of a deal like the Paris deal, do you think that there can be any solution, that can be tangible without China and the United States on board?
Well, I think, thank you so much for the question. I think that it's the other way around. I think that what we have to do is have them on board, and the whole efforts have to be oriented to the possibility of them being on board. Because this is an effort that has, as you were saying before, every country will be affected, rich or poor. So all of us have to do that effort in order to be able to complain with what was agreed in Paris. So I believe that the whole exercise now is on how we have everyone on board and how we can convince.
Do you think you can convince the Trump administration countries can get together and convince the United States at the moment to come on board?
Life is not ending tomorrow. Yeah. So I believe that we have to put an effort. Maybe this is not the time to convince them, but we have
maybe after the elections.
That was your...
That was my assessment.
Yes.
It's true.
I think that we have to be prepared to convince them at the right time, so all of us can be on board and contribute to the solution of the problems that we are having.
I understand.